Have you ever wished you had like a user's manual for your own mind? What we're about to explore is honestly the next best thing. This framework comes from the psychiatrist Dr. Conti, and it's seriously one of the clearest, most useful roadmaps I've ever come across for building real, lasting mental health.
I mean, just think about it for a second. When it comes to our physical health, we know what we're shooting for, right? We've got targets, we've got metrics, we know what healthy feels and looks like. But the moment you turn that lens inward, to your mind, it all just gets kind of fuzzy, doesn't it?
Right? It's so true. For our bodies, it's easy. We can measure blood pressure, our heart rate, how many flights of stairs we can climb without feeling gassed. But for our minds, the goals feel so abstract. Is it just happiness? Or maybe just not feeling anxious all the time? It can honestly feel like you're just wandering around in the dark with no clear idea of where you're even going. But here's the game changer from Dr. Conti. What if the destination isn't some vague, fleeting feeling at all? He argues that real mental health isn't about what's missing, like a lack of anxiety. It's all about what's present. It's about two powerful, active states of being that you can actually build and cultivate.
Okay, so the first one is agency. Now, this is so much more than just, making choices. It's that deep down feeling that you can actually affect the world around you, that your actions matter. And this part is absolutely crucial. It's also about having the wisdom to know the difference between what you can control and what you just can't. It's about being the driver in your own life, not just a passenger. In the second state, it's gratitude. And look, we're not just talking about saying thank you for things. Dr. Conti sees this as an active, motivating force. It's a genuine appreciation for your own existence, for being here, that then fuels how you interact with everything and everyone around you. It's like the engine for compassion, both for other people and, just as importantly, for yourself.
So, okay, agency and gratitude. Those are our destinations. Awesome. But here's the thing. You can't just flip a switch and have them. They don't just appear out of thin air. Dr. Conti says they have to be built on two really solid foundational pillars. And this is where it all starts to connect so beautifully. The first pillar is empowerment. This is that core belief that you have the tools, you have what it takes to handle whatever life throws at you. And that is what builds agency. The second pillar is humility. And we're not talking about weakness here. Not at all. It's a clear-eyed understanding of your place in the grand scheme of things. And that perspective, that's what opens the door to genuine gratitude. All right, so this brings us to the next and probably the most important question, right? If we need empowerment and humility to get to agency and gratitude, well, how in the world do we build those pillars? And the answer, according to Dr. Conti, lies in understanding the actual architecture of your own mind. We need a map, and he breaks this map down into two essential parts: the structure of yourself, think of this as the core components, and the function of yourself, which is how all those components actually operate out in the real world.
So let's start with the structure. You can think of these as the nouns of your psychology, the fundamental building blocks that make you, well, you.
And to make this super tangible, Dr. Conti uses this fantastic analogy that just makes everything click into place. He says, your mind structure is just like an iceberg.
So let's break this iceberg down. At the very, very top, that little tip we can all see sticking out of the water, that's our conscious mind. Our day-to-day awareness. Then, just below the surface, acting like a bouncer at a club, are our defense mechanisms, always trying to protect us from getting overwhelmed. And then, there's the massive, unseen foundation that's driving everything. That's the unconscious mind.
And this quote from him really drives the point home. He says something like, there's a huge part of this iceberg, maybe 95% of it, that's underneath the water. That's the unconscious mind. I mean, just think about that. That vast, submerged part of the iceberg, all our habits, our past traumas, our instincts, that's what's really steering the ship. Our conscious mind is kind of just along for the ride on top of this immense, powerful force.
And what's interesting is that those defense mechanisms aren't always a bad thing. Some are actually pretty healthy, like using humor to cope or altruism. But others, like projecting our own insecurities onto other people or just completely avoiding difficult truths, those can get us into trouble. The key thing to realize is that these things are running on autopilot, just beneath the surface, constantly trying to protect us. Okay, so that's the structure of the iceberg. That's the what. Now let's look at the second part of our map, the function. If the structure is the nouns, then function is all the verbs. It's how that iceberg actually moves and interacts with the world. You can picture it like a chain reaction. It all starts with your basic awareness of I, and then, bam,
Immediately, your unconscious defenses kick in to protect that I. And that determines what your brain flags as important or salient, basically what you even pay attention to. So, for example, if you're terrified of public speaking, your salience filter is going to notice every single person in the audience who yawns. And then, based on what you notice, you act. That's your behavior. Maybe you start talking way too fast. And all of this action is aimed at your bigger hopes and goals, what Dr. Conti calls your strivings. So, here's the crucial point, the big aha moment. When all the parts of your mind, the structure, that iceberg, and the actions of your mind, the function, how it moves, when they are all working together in harmony, that's when you unlock the most powerful, positive motivation you have.
And Dr. Conti has a name for this. He calls it the generative drive. And it's just what it sounds like. It's that innate human impulse to build things, to connect with people, to learn, and to just make things better. Better for yourself and better for others. It's not about aggression or just chasing pleasure, it's about creation. This, he says, is the engine that powers a truly healthy self.
And when you see it laid out like this, the stakes become crystal clear, don't they? When our inner world is all misaligned and our outdated defenses are running the show, it just leads to these destructive cycles of envy and isolation. But when we learn to tap into that generative drive, it naturally leads to creativity, collaboration, and right back to where we started, our ultimate destinations of agency and gratitude.
So, at the end of the day, here is the big takeaway. This entire framework completely shifts our perspective on mental health. It stops being this reactive game of just playing whack-a-mole with all our problems and pathologies. Instead, it becomes this proactive, honestly fascinating journey of understanding your own internal map so you can consciously, intentionally cultivate that incredible generative drive.
Ultimately, this whole framework isn't about finding what's broken or wrong with you. It's about understanding what's already there. Your conscious thoughts, your unconscious patterns, your defenses, your behaviors, they're all just parts of your personal map. The only question left is, which part of that map are you going to explore first?